It's time to take your business to the next level, the boss level. These are the premier business owner strategies and successes being utilized by the industry's top talent today. Rock your business like a boss, a VO boss. Now let's welcome your host, Ann Ganguza.
Hey everyone, welcome to the VO Boss Podcast and the Boss Superpower Series. I'm your host, Ann Ganguza, and I am here with the lovely Lau Lapidas.
Hey everyone.
Yay, Lau. Hey, beautiful.
Beautiful right back at ya.
How are you today?
Oh, I'm fabulous. I feel like this is going to be a very rewarding show, or maybe awarding show.
Oh, hey,
see what I did?
I see what you did there. It's funny, Lau, we just attended an award ceremony, and there's a lot of different opinions out there on, do we like awards? Do we not like awards? Maybe we should have a talk about that, Lau. What do you think?
I love it. I haven't heard anyone really talk about discussing awards, like the process, not just the winning of the award, but also like what goes into the entire process. It's really a huge thing. Sometimes takes 6 months or a year to prep that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you that, first of all, I guess bosses out there, we want to hear how you feel about awards, too. I mean, there's so much discussion happening out there, on the Facebook groups and in social media about awards. And are they worth it? Because some awards cost money to enter, some awards don't. And in our industry right now, I know of 2 distinct award shows that go on. However, they are not the only awards that you can certainly enter if you feel the desire to do that. Lau, I have been a supporter of award shows since the beginning. However, there are many pros and there are many cons to it. Pros is that if you win an award, it's validation, right? Sometimes it's so difficult to be validated while we sit here in our studios all by ourselves and we don't get a lot of feedback all the time. And gosh, I'm always telling my corporate students, we just want to be loved. You know, when you work for a company and you feel underappreciated, I mean, gosh, that's really all we long for is to be loved. And I think awards can be a verification of that. But then again, sometimes they may not be because maybe you didn't win. And then that enters in a whole new mental aspect of, oh my gosh, I wasn't good enough to win this award. Why did I not win this award? Somebody else is better than me. What are your thoughts about that, Lau?
I think that when you go into this kind of a process, if you're entering into it and really submitting yourself for it intentionally, you have to set your mindset and your psychology to the fact that it is competitive. It is a competition. You may or may not feel like it is, but it really is. It should be based on merit. It should be based on your progress, your process, and your product. And sometimes we only have so much control over that, right? We manage it. We only have so much control, right?
I think that's the big thing. You just said it should be based on merit. And right there, we could probably spend an entire podcast talking about that. It should be based on merit. However, there's the other side of the coin where, yes, it should be based on merit, but then you have the people who judge the awards, right? And we don't always know, first of all, who those people are. Sometimes we do. I'm not a big fan of knowing who judges are. I feel like maybe there's too much possibility for people to maybe try to talk to the judges and influence them. So I'd rather not have judges be known. And then you have to really think about what are the judges' qualifications, because within voiceover, we have so many different categories, right? And so many different categories of awards. If you're going to, I would say, present these categories of awards, I think you want to have very vetted judges, right? Judging the entries. And I am not sure, since we don't know who the judges are all the time, or even if we do know who the judges are, what is the criteria? For me, a demo award versus a performance award, and in all different genres, I think it's super important that the people judging those are very specialized in those genres or in that category. So if you're judging animation, I would hope that judges are all experienced, either working in animation or doing animation day in, day out, and they really know the industry. And so I really would hope that that's the case. I don't know, Lau, if that's the case with all the judges, because again, we don't always know who the judges are, and we don't know what their credentials are.
Right. And I can say just from my personal point of view that it's not always the case. Because at times I've been asked to judge categories, which I feel like I can judge them. But Am I way off base? No, I don't think so. I think there's a general industry knowledge that you have for years in the industry. But is it my absolute forte? No, not always. It's not my forte. We try to get that matching process, but sometimes it's a numbers game, just like the competitors. It's like, do we have enough judges? Do we have enough judges in a particular category? Are we getting them in time? Can they get the work done?
That's right, in time. And that's the other thing. I mean, my goodness, judging some of these awards, because I have been a judge myself. First of all, when there's a lot of categories and a lot of entries, it becomes like a casting process. And right then and there, bosses, I want that to tell you one thing. That means that sometimes, right, and I'm not going to speak for myself, but sometimes if you've asked a busy person to be a judge and then they have to listen to 1,000 entries, they're probably only going to get the first part of your entry listened to before they have to continue on. So that is something to consider. I mean, if there's a nuance or an acting moment that is at the end of your performance, maybe you want to try to create that clip so that all that great stuff is right at the beginning, because it is a job. It can be a lengthy and timely job. And if judges are not given an appropriate amount of time to do that, or they don't have a lot of time to do that, and they think I can judge that, and then all of a sudden it becomes overwhelming. Well, then you get the judging process becomes a little skewed, to be quite honest, because either I don't have time or I've heard too many entries. I'm now overwhelmed. But yeah, there's so many things that go into it. My goodness. And then are the entries anonymous? We hope they are, right? Because we don't want the judges to be influenced by names or celebrity or that type of thing. But our voice is our product, right? So sometimes, I'll tell you what, it's hard to hide, because I know a lot of voices out there and I can pick them out like this.
I would agree.
Yeah.
And, this last time, one of the last ones you and I judged, we were under an NDA, which I actually really appreciated.
I did too.
Right? It took a lot of stress, because not that I would be necessarily blabbing about that. I wouldn't. But it reminded my brain, separate it, compartmentalize it. Because you and I, we wear a lot of hats,
Yes.
Casting and agent and coach and this and that. And so there is sometimes that one or two talent that we know. We do know them. And then could we recuse ourselves? Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't, because they can't move us into another category. So it's great to have that compartmentalization and that relaxation to know, okay, if there is someone in front of me that I know that's a client or a client of a friend of mine, that I am separating that from this hat that I'm wearing.
Absolutely.
And then I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to speak about that. And I wonder what you think about this, Anne. I had mixed feelings. I have mixed feelings about the awards being given and then the judges' names coming out. It sort of makes me feel like a jury that all of a sudden is being, you hear the names of the jury who's on a criminal case. It makes me feel uncomfortable. It's like, why do I need to know that information?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
That's very interesting, and I appreciate that you brought that up, because as I mentioned, I always have been a fan of keep it anonymous. I mean, for the longest time, and this isn't anything that's being judged. For example, I have done the VO Peeps scholarships for, 12 years already. And when we judge those entries, I don't disclose the names of the judges, and I don't even disclose the names of the judges after the fact. Because again, what if I want to use those judges maybe again, and I don't want to have anybody influenced, and I don't want the judges, I feel like I don't need credit. If I'm a judge, I don't need credit in being a judge. I just want to be able to judge fairly. And I happen to agree with you. I don't think that judges' names should ever be disclosed, really. And I'm not quite sure why the reason is. And it might just be that they want to be thanked properly. But it's like when I give a donation, I don't always have to put my name on that. It can be an anonymous donation because I did it out of the goodness of my heart. If I'm judging something, I want it to just be the most fair that it can possibly be.
I'm glad you brought that up, because when I see that at a ceremony, someone who's kind enough to give money towards a scholarship or towards an award, I kind of feel bad for them, because I'm like, as much as you go, oh, aren't they wonderful? They don't always want that recognition. They don't always feel comfortable knowing that it's well-known knowledge that anyone who wins a lottery, like they have to be very careful about releasing their name because then they become a target and people go after them. So you have to wonder, if you're in an award ceremony, could you then become some sort of target that people are either trying to embellish themselves to you or they're trying to
similar
knock
to
you
being
down.
an agent, Law. I'm just saying.
I know nothing about that.
Nothing about that.
Right. It's so true. It's like they prostrate themselves to you day and night, right? I'm not one to really appreciate that, honestly. I'm very private in that way. Like, if I'm going to give a bunch of money, I'd rather it not have my name in there. But that's just me. Other people do want that recognition. That's fine. That's totally fine.
I'm going to say I'm not here to shame anybody saying if you put your name on a donation that it's shameful. I just think there are times when I don't think it's necessary. And sometimes, I mean, I'll put my name on a donation if I can add a note to it, to the recipient, in wishing them goodwill, that kind of a thing. And that will be a reason for that. But I think, Law, one thing I want to really make a point of about awards is when you enter awards, having experienced both sides of it, being a judge and then also entering into awards myself, I think you just have to really be made of Teflon, number one, because the process is very subjective, right? And we're starting to kind of address all the things that go into the awards, submitting and then the judging process. And if you know who the judges are they qualified? And that process. But I think one thing I want to stress to the bosses out there is please do not ever belittle yourself if you do not win an award or if you don't get nominated for an award. I think that, especially in our business, because it's very much a personal part of us, it's our voice, right? It is so personal. And if we ever don't feel as though we've succeeded, it can be really, really damaging to our psyche.
I would agree. Do not give a ton of weight to that process. And it's very funny. It's almost like auditioning. It's like, don't give a ton of weight to any one audition. Brush it off and leave and go on to the next thing. But yet, when you're actually auditioning, give it the 100% it deserves. Completely commit to it, completely invest in it, completely appreciate it. So if you're awarded something or nominated, completely be present. Be appreciative. Love the moments. Enjoy your community. Love the attention. But then when you walk away, I really do believe you have the award. You're not going to forget about the award. You're going to utilize it as well in your marketing.
Oh, absolutely.
But don't hang your hat on
positive.
it.
Absolutely.
Don't hang your hat on it like, I'm the best, I'm the expert, I'm finished. No, it's a recognition that your work is at an industry standard that people want to appreciate, but there's a lot more to go.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that it's wonderful to get an award and it's wonderful to get nominated. I mean, if I want to make a distinction between being nominated and winning an award, I feel that the nomination is an award in and of itself because listen to this, award nominated, award winning. I mean, honestly, they still start with award. And so if you're going to use that to market, I mean, gosh, just to be sometimes narrowed down and be put on the short list, you can be proud of that, to be nominated. And I really, really do believe that that can be celebrated as a win. And again, even if you're not nominated, understand that your work has value. You have worth. You have value. And just because you didn't get the nomination or get a win doesn't mean that you are any less of a professional or accomplished and successful individual.
I agree. Totally agree. I'd love to talk, too, about the length of awards ceremonies. I think that is either
good
thought
topic.
about or it's not thought about. Maybe it's thought about, maybe it's not thought about. But they could run 3-4 hours in length sometimes.
Absolutely.
And I wonder how the audience feels about going through that kind of process and sitting through that process. We did an awards not long ago, you and I, where we literally sat in a chair for 3 hours. There was no break. There was no moment to take a breath, walk around, nothing. And I thought that was a very strange choice on the part of the organizers to keep people in a seat for that length of time and expect that focus to really stay there and be there late at night. What do you think about that?
I'm just thinking about all the awards ceremonies that we've become accustomed to on television. If you watch the Emmys or the Golden Globes, and there's always either food or drink at the table. Number one, that helps. If you're going to have to be planted or seated in an audience, I think that works. And what if you have to leave to use the restroom, right? I mean, and then they announce your award. Hopefully you want to have like a series of events and when are they going to announce this category? I happen to know a very good friend of mine who was caught in the bathroom when they won and was not able to come to the stage and give their acceptance speech. But I think that sometimes sitting through the awards ceremony can be laborious if there's not any kind of entertainment kind of interspersed in there and or some sort of a schedule of events. And I know that that's difficult. And sometimes they want to keep it a surprise for the people. They want to keep people in their seats. But it can get tiring. I will say that my tushy got a little bit sore. And I've been to longer ones, okay? I have been to longer ones than the one that you and I were at, which were really excruciating just because of the length. And not all categories were called up to the stage. So,
No, they need to sell cushions like they do it
at the stadiums.
At the Shakespeare's Globe, you have to buy a cushion. You have to sit on the cushion, and that would make a lot of sense. Though I did think of a shortcut because I'm an organizer myself of events, and one of the shortcuts I don't think anyone would ever do, but I think makes total sense. There were a handful of people at a few of the ceremonies that you and I attended that won more than one award. One in particular I can remember, he won 3. Okay. Lovely. Good for him. Why did they spread that out? And why did he need to come up 3 times, have 3 spiels in which he ran out of things to say? He was telling jokes by the end of it. Why not house those categories? 1, 2, 3. They have a sense maybe he's going to win. Maybe.
I don't know.
They're preparing.
I don't know.
Who's
because
preparing the envelopes?
Remember
Who's
that's
preparing the
usually,
envelopes?
it's under lock and key, right? So nobody knows. So that's theoretically somebody knows.
But theoretically
somebody knows. But again, but then I don't think, Lau, you'd want the audience to expect, right, that the next category he would be the winner as well. So there'd be no, right? But if you think about it that way, right, if they know he won in multiple categories and then they called the second category, once they did a series of, right, the audience would expect it. So I don't think you can do it that way. And I think he handled it well, personally.
Listen, I think theoretically it's true, but you and I know most of that audience was dying to get out and get a hamburger after that. You know what I mean? Like, if I could get some French fries and cut this a little bit shorter, I'm all over the nuggets. You know what I mean? Like, I'm ready to go. I don't need it to be that extra hour.
Well, I think that it could be maybe addressed at the amount of categories, maybe.
Maybe.
But then they want to make sure that they're covering everybody. So I can see where organizers have a big job here.
Yeah, it's tough.
There's a lot, everybody wants to be represented. As a matter of fact, I am like all for, let's have the best medical narration demo. I want that because, that's something that I do. And that's something I would love to submit for. And there's no category anywhere for that. So I can see where they have to.
Of course, it's entertainment as well. So they have to pad the whole evening with different kinds of entertainment and videos and jokes and this, and that pads it with another hour or another hour and a half. So I get that.
But
I totally get that.
I'm going to say, what do you say, Lau, about, because I'm okay with awards. I'm okay with awards because over the years I've learned a little bit more about how they work. And I've won, I've lost, I've not been nominated, I've been nominated, I've been through it all myself, the emotional swing that it can cause, right?
Yep.
And I'm still okay with awards because I can understand them for what they are. And so, bosses, I hope that this helps you to just kind of get a better grip on what they are and not let it determine your value at all. If you choose not to enter or not support awards ceremony, that's entirely fine. You can still be a boss, absolutely. But I don't think that this kind of back and forth war that we have about awards, I think it gets a little bit divided and for not really a good reason. I don't think if you want to enter, go ahead and enter and don't shame people who enter awards. I really am a big fan of that. I mean, I don't love negative talk on social media for people who enter awards or get awards or that kind of a thing.
I am so with you on that, Anne. And that would extend, too, to people who do not come to the awards, who for many reasons can't, won't, or don't want to come to the awards. I think that's fine. I mean, if I'm being nominated, I'll go because I'm very honored and I'll buy the dress and I'll do the thing and I'll enjoy it. But there are others that say, no, it's not my scene or I can't afford it.
Yeah.
Oh, or
yeah.
I don't want to because I'm in Florida.
It can get expensive. Fine. I mean, you're talking about typically people like to dress for these things. So you're talking airfare, maybe, travel expenses, hotel expenses, dress expenses, or suit. Yeah, absolutely. And for me, I had makeup and hair, but I always like to have an excuse to have makeup and hair. But
You're so schmaltzy that way.
Well,
I love
for
it.
me, I'm telling you, for me, it's a little spa day. I mean, if somebody can just handle that for me, I can think about like what I have to do.
Yes.
I always talk about when I present, I like to have hair and makeup because then I don't have to worry about those things and I can concentrate on my presentation. So while somebody's doing my hair, I am like doing notes for presentations. For me, it's just an investment, but it can be very expensive. Awards can be very expensive. And sometimes you have to buy the award after the fact, and that is also expensive. So there's a lot of, I think, pros to it, but yet a lot of cons. And I don't want you bosses out there to feel any less than worthy or valuable just because you do or don't enter an award show.
I'm with you on that, Anne. And I would say no matter how you take part, I would urge people to take part in some way, whether you're a witness or you're submitting or you're just congratulating someone who won, and just support the community in any way that's best and comfortable for you, because it is ultimately, I would imagine, there for the people and for the community and for the recognition. Yeah. And we don't want to completely lose that. We want to preserve that, however you take part.
And also, I want to just say, unless you're organizing an award event, I think if you could maybe steer clear of criticism. I think that if people criticize people who hold events and they say, well, it's all about the money, or they try to figure out, how many people times how much the cost of a ticket, wow, they're making a lot of money. And then they make assumptions on the fact that, they're just doing that because they're greedy or whatever reason you have. I think, honestly, just having a husband who does events, and myself, I've done events, Lau, you do events. Like, I think anybody that can sit back behind a keyboard and criticize about an event if they've not organized one themselves, especially one that's in a hotel where you have to pay probably a big chunk of fees to a hotel for food, for the space. Just to do that is not a cheap thing at all. And so what event organizers charge for their event, I mean, I just steer clear of any kind of criticism because I know how expensive it can be. Very expensive.
Very, especially in this day and age. It's the most expensive it's ever been.
Oh, yeah,
so
absolutely.
Have a little mercy and understanding on event organizers. And then the other thing, too, and I wanted to say, not just about awards, but we're talking about awards right now, is like, don't look the gift horse in the mouth in regards to, like, the people who organize, arrange, direct, all of that deserve the profit they make oftentimes because they are going through such stress. It's beyond a full-time job. No one realizes that unless they're involved with that kind of work.
Well, my husband does it as a full-time job. I mean, and it's crazy because even people that he works with don't understand what it takes to prepare for an event. It is crazy, but I love that you said, please have compassion. I'm backing you up on that. I'm backing you up on that because it's not easy to do something like that. But yet it seems so easy for us to sit behind our keyboards and just make assumptions. And I think, And so don't make assumptions about, I think, awards events, the event organizers, or even the judges, or even if you agree or don't agree with awards. I really feel like just one of my favorite sayings is to mind your own business. And I don't mean that in a mom way. I mean that my VO business is my business. And if I feel that maybe entering an award competition will maybe help my marketing, I'm going to do it. And I don't want to be criticized for that or looked upon badly for that. But again, and I will try not to cry if I don't win. Because I think anybody that knows me knows how darn competitive I am. Ooh, I am competitive.
You are. I've got a box of tissues for you.
Thank
so
you.
you don't need to worry about that.
That's why I want you at my side at all times.
I'm ready with a tissue, a handkerchief,
and a turkey sandwich,
a shoulder.
And a turkey sandwich.
And a turkey sandwich at all costs. A turkey sandwich.
See, and that's what support is. Like, I love that. That kind of support, right? We need to lift each other up. And so if awards are your thing, support the people in the community. Like, Law supports me with a turkey sandwich and a box of tissues. I love that, right? I mean, it's so true. It's so true. And Law, and if I can get you a turkey sandwich at any time, I will do so.
And that's why I love you back, because we're all about getting of the turkey sandwiches. It's not even Thanksgiving. That's the best part.
Bosses, you might be wondering, what are they talking about? Well, at one of the last conferences, it happened to be late at night, and I had been presenting and had gotten out of like multiple panels and X sessions or whatever it was. And by the time I got to the restaurant to eat, it had closed. It was like after 10 o'clock and everything had shut down. And I was starving. I literally was like, I need something. And there was no DoorDash that could be quick. And so Lau to the rescue, who actually went and secured me a turkey sandwich.
Yes.
It magically appeared from behind the desk.
Late at night.
Behind the front desk.
Yes. I was like the Uma Thurman in the Kill Bill series. I just jumped over the desk. I tackled the woman behind there and I said,
and
how could you not be open?
And it was fresh. And I ravaged that turkey sandwich. I did. I literally did. And it was the bread was flying. The turkey was in my mouth. And I ate it like a caveman. I mean, literally.
It was beyond Quentin Tarantino stuff.
I didn't even have utilities to eat it with. I ate it with my hands.
I know. I didn't even have a sword. I just used the verbal swordplay of my mouth and my words.
But that's the story of the turkey sandwich and Lau, how she came to save me. Okay, so everybody needs a Lau, right? Everybody needs a Lau on their side.
Thank you.
Lau, I mean, what a great conversation. I mean, I hope bosses, you guys always know your value, whether you are winning awards or not winning awards. You guys, you are gifts and awards in our hearts. And so make sure that you feel that way about yourself and, of course, others in the industry. And let's lift each other up. So
I love it. We love you if you win, and we love you even more if you don't win because it's all about your process.
There you go. There you go. And speaking of awards and making a difference, you guys can use your voice to make an immediate difference in our world and give back to the communities that give to you, just like Lau gives me turkey sandwiches. So you guys visit 100voiceswhocare.org to commit. And big shout out to IPDTL, our favorite way to connect. Bosses, you too can find out more at ipdtl.com. Have an amazing week, guys, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Join us next week for another edition of VO Boss with your host, Ann Ganguza. And take your business to the next level. Sign up for our mailing list at voboss.com and receive exclusive content, industry revolutionizing tips and strategies, and new ways to rock your business like a boss. Redistribution with permission, coast-to-coast connectivity via IPDTL.
This time a little more conversational. I actually give something really, really conversational once, and they're like, oh. Yeah, can it be a little more conversation, and I'll give it completely conversational. They'll be like, oh. How about a little more energy? And you know when they ask for more energy, that usually means they're looking for a little more
you're not anywhere near it.
Oh, yeah, maybe, or a little more smile.
A little more smile.
A little more smile, a little more energy that gives you the sell back.